I'd like to call the Fairhope Board of Adjustment meeting of October 20th, 25 to order. Before we get started, I'd like to introduce our board members.
Brian Baker.
Donna Cook.
Anil Vera.
Kathy Slagle.
Frank Lamia.
Great. We have a special announcement. It is Kathy's birthday. She just turned 88, so. So.
Wow. It was yesterday.
Yesterday.
Congratulations.
All right, our first order of business is approval of the minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. So we have a few items on our new business. The first one is the election of officers. And this will be for the 2026 calendar year. And do we have a motion to? Okay.
And just one quick conversation. So we will be updating the terms, and if y'all have questions, I'll address this. Some of the term limits were kind of mixed up through the years, so we're going to establish that as the intent of rotating terms. So that'll be on the council agenda very soon. Ms. Slagle will be moving to a supernumerary alternate position. So as the current co-chair, we might recommend to consider another co-chair for the following year, if y'all want to discuss or nominate any other members.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to nominate Frank Lamia as vice chair.
Okay.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right.
Frank,
Congratulations,
you didn't want to vote for yourself?
At least you were here and had a chance to speak up. Okay, so the other chair and secretary would be the other positions.
Yeah.
And I highly recommend Cindy Boudreau as the secretary.
I'd like to nominate Anil Vera as chair again and Cindy as secretary.
I second.
All in favor? Aye.
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 All right.
We have to
And-
do secretary. Do we do secretary?
Yes, he did it, the same thing.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Okay, and then we'll approval of the 2026 meeting. There were a couple of changes because of holidays.
And those are the only changes, like normal, that we have for the schedule due to the holidays. Three, January, February, and then January again.
Right. Okay, do we have a motion to accept the dates?
I so move.
All right.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
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 All right. So our new order of business is we've got a BOA 25.10. It's a public hearing to request the applicant George Torres on behalf of the owner for a special exception to display cars for outside sales on the property located at 9960 Fairhope Avenue. Staff, will you kind of give us an update on it? Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Okay. All right, this is a special exception approval to allow an automated outdoor sales lot within the B2 district, and the subject site is 0.5 acres. And there's the science for all of it right there. So this is what it looks like off of Fairhope Avenue. The thing in the yellow. So some history, the subject property was included as Lot 2 of the Tillman's Corner subdivision, which took place in 1995 while under Baldwin County jurisdiction. Since then, there has been nothing in front of this board or the Planning Commission or City Council. So this is what it looks like. There it is from Fairhope Avenue. There's the existing car lot on the far left picture, and he's actually just going to expand that business to the subject site, which is the old Bay Wash Car Wash. And when I did a site visit in August, you can see that there's been some residents in there. So, and Mr. Torres can tell you more about that because he's had to deal with it. So, there is a proposed site plan. It's on my far left again, because it's going to add some more landscaping. There's a lot of scratching stuff on there. This was done by a landscape architect. But more importantly, it has the parking spots, and you'll see those, it starts with one up there, that little guy towards Fairhope Avenue. There's 16 in all. So that's why we had to get them to see where they were going to park the cars so we could kind of get an idea of what it might look like. And then there's some landscaping all around as well. And there is the tree credit table and the different type of vegetation that is proposed. So, the B2 district is intended to provide opportunity for activities causing noise and heavy traffic, not considered compatible in the most restrictive business district. These uses also serve as a regional as well as local market and require location and proximity to major transportation routes. So check. Additionally, outdoor sales lots defined as retail use where a significant portion of the merchandise, either in area or in business value, is typically stored outside during business hours. The outdoor sales lot is an allowable use within B2, so long as the Board of Adjustment approves it with special conditions, because it's only on appeal and subject to those special conditions. So the subject site is comprised of 2 properties, that lot 2, and then there's that weird triangular piece, that remnant parcel, which is indicated right there. So that's why there are 2 on that subject. The subject site consists of 2 parcels. So, like I mentioned earlier, Mr. Torres operates the car sales business to the west, and he wants to expand the business to the subject property. So Spalier did that landscape inventory and did that sketch with all the landscaping. It's bigger in the packet. We suggested cleaning up and filling in and improving the existing landscaping, specifically adding more trees along Fairhope Avenue, according to the tree and landscape ordinance, and more bushes in the rear. There is a detention pond. I don't know if you guys can see, but it has it written right there. You can't really see it right now because it's grown up. So we suggest, if approved, the existing pond should be revitalized so it can turn it to the appropriate level of effectiveness so it can be utilized. The board, you might find it appropriate to limit where the vehicles may be displayed on site. That's why you had those 16 squares on that proposed layout. The proposed site improvements illustrated a total of the 16 on-site parking spaces. So, and we suggest limiting those to those, so for aesthetics. Outdoor sales lots do not have minimum parking requirements, but the secondary use is proposed to be an in-house car detailing operation, and that is classified as as closest to automobile service station in our uses. And that automobile service station will require at least 4 parking spaces, one of which needs to be a compact car space. So the proposed site plan illustrates a compliant number of parking spaces, which is that 16, but needs to be revised to label the northernmost parking space on the site labeled with the number 1 on the site plan as a compact car space. So it's that one that's that diagonal right here. It's kind of on its own out here, is the one that's suggested to be compact. So if approved, administrative replat will be required that combines that lot 2 with that remnant triangle that I pointed out that currently encroaches on it. So we do recommend approval with a special exception for outdoor sales lot located at 9960 Fairhope Avenue with the following conditions. Some of these are in red because we redid the wording. It's the same intent that they're in the staff report. So the first one is coordinate with planning and the city horticultural staff to bring the subject site into compliance with the city of Fairhope tree and landscape ordinance as may be necessary. Coordinate with planning staff to provide confirmation from an engineer that the existing detention pond can handle all the on-site stormwater for the proposed improvements. Number 3, revision of the site plan to label the parking space located furthest north on the site as the compact car space. Any vehicles associated with the outdoor sales lot use shall be stored and displayed on the subject site only within those areas delineated by the 16 parking spots. Completion of an administrative replat to combine that triangular remnant parcel with the bigger Lot 2 of Tillman's Corner subdivision into one single lot of record. And finally, a revised final site plan addressing all aforementioned conditions prior to issuance of any associated development permits and/or issuance or renewal of any associated business license. And we have the applicant here, Mr. Torres.
I got a question. If you combine those two lots, can they ever divide them up again?
I mean, you could.
Potentially.
Yeah, you could.
There's on B2, so there's, if they meet the, probably not like that.
Right, that's not ideal.
Those are that's a remnant of a historic way the lots used to be divided up, and they combined the neighboring property. So this is just a remnant of that. So any new permits or anything require the lots to be combined.
Is this going to be a separate business than the car dealership next door, or is it the same business?
Same business.
So why do they need to have a separate, it says, you said before they can have business license, isn't it a current business that's in use and they're just expanding to the secondary lot?
So the use that was there was a car lot before it was in the city, before it was approved. It's been there for a while. We did speak with the applicant about that exact thing, that would require all the properties, including the existing car lot, to be combined. And then everything has to come into compliance. So this is the outdoor sales approval for this lot. What happens on this lot is what we're focused on. I mean, technically, they could put another sign for another auto sales. The intent, as we were described, was to bring the cars in from sale on the trucks that holds 15 or 16, detail them and move them to the car sales lots. So the intent here is to not have a high volume of cars on this particular lot. We will treat this as though it's a separate property. If they get a sign ordinance, they can have another sign on this building. It is a separate, and they can, whether the name is the same or not pertinent.
So it is treated as two separate businesses and the same, that's fine. Okay. I was confused by that.
Yeah.
Last
As long as they have an active business license, everything's legal in that regard.
All right. Would the applicant like to add anything? If you'll come up and state your name and address for the record for us.
Jorge Torres, and I'm the applicant for 9960 Fairhope Avenue. And basically, you're correct, basically, we're just adding on to the business, but with a separate address. And the whole intention is, as he mentioned, to bring cars in and use the car wash to clean them up and stuff and park, whatever I need to, and follow the rules up to 16 cars or whatever it is. And it's going to have the same name. If I have to get another sign, I don't have a problem, but it'll be limited in size, obviously. So that's basically all I'm doing. And one of the factors that I want to buy this property and expand is because there's been a lot of people living there, as you can see from the pictures. At one time, I called the police, and they weren't able to do anything because I do not own the property. I've had my cars kind of not vandalized, but people slept in the cars because there's a foul odor in them. So, and it's been like this for, I think, probably going on 2 or 2.5 years. And there's really been no activity. And the current owner, as you can see, does not care, does not clean, does not do anything. So it's hurting my business, and it's hurting Fairhope Avenue when you drive by the store side. So that's one of the reasons, and basically what I want to do is clean it up and expand my business. So if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them, as long as I can.
And there was a landscape plan, and the landscape architect said most of the plants are there, they haven't been maintained. So, I think there is an acknowledgement that there's not going to be an investment spent on maintaining it until the use is approved and he's actually purchasing the property. So just as though as Michelle mentioned, the detention pond and maintenance, the trees and all of those will be vetted as well.
How many parking spots will you have for customers?
In that lot, none, because they're all going to come in through my lot. I don't plan to have anybody coming in there. Just if they want to see the car, we'll just walk over from my lot to that lot.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
This time we'll open the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on behalf of this proposal? Close the public portion. Board members, do we have any discussion and a motion?
I have a question for staff. The detention requirement about cleaning it up, I understood that, but then it said that you needed confirmation that the detention handles this entire site. It's an existing detention for the existing site. So can y'all expound on that? I mean, if it was designed as such, are you asking them to expand it? Okay.
There's no other hard surfaces provided, so has it silted in as maintenance happens? Has it silted in? Is the capacity as designed still operational?
Okay.
It's not a wet pond, it's kind of right, but it's pretty overgrown right now, we can't really evaluate, so at some point, it needs to evaluate that it's not silted in and it's still
You're
operating.
not asking them to reevaluate the whole entire site and provide new detention for the site? Okay.
No.
You can make a motion. Move that we approve BOA 2510, special exception for outdoor sales with the following 6 conditions that are listed.
I second.
You want me to name them all? You've got them.
And we have a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Ryan?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Our second order of business will be 25.12, but we're going to switch that around to the end because Ryan has to excuse himself. So we'll take the next one, which is 25.13. It's a public hearing to consider the request of the owner, Patrick Seals, for a 1-foot, 11-inch side yard setback and a 5-foot, 11-inch structure separation variance on the property located at 304 Liberty Street.
So we do have a variance request, and thank you, Mr. Chairman. The property is shown on the screen. I want to kind of highlight this. The zoning is R2. On the right is the aerial with the existing conditions on the site. It is a regular shaped lot. I want to kind of bring your attention, because I'm going to refer back to this. Liberty Street, until you get to the south end of the property, is pretty straight north and south, and then kind of veers off. I'm going to bring that back up with a 1911 plat as we move forward, so I'll come back to this if we need to. The existing house was, per tax records, was built in 1986. There's evidence of other permits going back to the 60s. It's really impossible to tell exactly what was there. As y'all know, public records for building permits are only good for 7 years, so we don't have any detailed information about what was there. But there is an existing house with a slight nonconformity on depending on what's the frontage of the lot. There is a slight nonconformity if it's a side. There's a large nonconformity if it's the rear. There's one without the scribbles on it. Will also notice a green dash line. I'm going to refer to that in a minute. That is an existing property line that will have to be removed. Existing conditions, there was a start of a garage being built. Just want you to see that visually as we talk about it. And this is a separate accessory structure that was framed and had a foundation survey. The proposed site plan, as we received the application and we put those measurements in, there is a separation requirement between a house and a garage of 10 feet. They are asking for that to be 4 foot 1 inches. And then from the side, as this plan shows, to be 3 feet 1 inch from the sideline, lot line, instead of the required 5 feet. As you can see, this is a irregular lot, which is a reason for a variance or a hardship. I know our board members are familiar with this language and case law and all the advice we get on variances, but just for the public's sake, variances are to be given sparingly. They are not, and it is about the size, shape, topography of a lot. One of the things that was kind of hard here is what is the frontage of this lot? It is a challenge by our definition of the frontage of a lot, not the perceived frontage. And any way you look at it, there's going to be a nonconformity, and we don't have the exact facts to back up how it was applied. You know, the house could have been there before the 50s when our zoning ordinance came into play. Could have been an existing that was added on to. We don't know those details. But when we first had this conversation, we had to assume that was by choice. Where the house was built was by choice, and as you know, reasons for a variance cannot be about a self-imposed hardship where the house was placed on the lot and further limits the house. It's depending on what happened in the past, that might have been a reason to either support a variance or not support a variance. We didn't have the clear guidance there. I do want to point out the historic lot lines. Probably the Fairhope's first plat of 1911, and this is just a small snippet of it, but this is the very southern end. You can see kind of the highlighted area. That lots 1 and 2 were the southern part of that plat. And this lot actually sits about where that yellow highlighted is. It's only a portion of lots 1 and 2 as legally described. So that lot line sits in the middle, it's still there, has to go away, just like we talked about in the previous case. I want to point out that straight line, that North and South Liberty Street, because later on when other plats were come in, I think Magnolia Beach was 1923, it joined up with this but didn't quite line up with the roads. So through the years, and we don't know the exact date on this, but this lot, the reason it has that Camford edge is it gave up right away for that street to connect. So yet another potential for a reason for a variance and imposing a hardship on this lot. This is the current conditions, and you can see the house actually sits 35 feet off, whether this is the front or this is the front. It sits 35 feet off of that. In March of this year, we received a building permit for the garage in the planning department. The site plan at right does show the non-compliant structure, the separation between two buildings, but the planning department did permit this. We put this out as approved. One of the steps before people can begin vertical construction is a foundation survey to verify it's in the right location. When our building department went out, they caught that, hey, this isn't the required 10-foot separation per the zoning ordinance. So that's what caught this, and through a couple of months of talking with the applicants and contractor, they have proposed the current variance that would reduce the width of the building but still give them a 20-foot wide garage. And that's the request in front of us today. I do want to point out that gives you a little bit of flexibility. Precedent is one thing we talk about a lot. What you do for one, you do for another. The hardships on the property, the irregular shape, and also us permitting this, collectively, while not any of those things gives us the comfort level to say with 100% surety it's a reason for a variance. Collectively, we do support the setback variance or the separation variance. There was another variance requested for the side setback, so the 2 feet. Now, we have a signed survey that says the as-built where the foundation survey was meets the 5 foot from the property line, and that's on the screen here. So that's this edge, if you can see my mouse. So we don't support that variance. I don't think it's needed, but that kind of creates a conflict with what we have on record as where the foundation survey was at. So unless there,
Is this the foundation survey?
this is the as-built survey that was submitted
Okay.
for the foundation
That's
inspection.
what's actually out there in the existing condition.
And it's, no, the foundation is not, its slab is not poured, this is what was submitted for the, I guess, the stakeout or whatever was there, that meets, that side meets is in compliance with our regulations. So, we didn't see a need to support that one. Now, what this does show, the applicant has kind of moved away from the property line here and shrunk the width of the garage a little bit, because that's 2 feet, 2'9", I believe, separation. So getting that to 4 foot 11 inches, it helps, and we have confirmed with our building department we can make that work for fire code and other requirements at as part of the building permit. You know, I do think there are opportunities here for the hardship and the variance consideration. There's standards of review if you need to reference those. We do find that there is a warrant for the 5'11" structure separation variance, but not the 1'11". So we have 2 recommendations. The first one is we do recommend approval of the 5'11" structural separation variance with the following conditions: a replat that removes the historic lot line is approved and recorded in Baldwin County probate. And the second recommendation is we recommend denial of the 1'11" side setback variance. The applicants here with their representation, if there's any questions for us, we'll be happy to answer those.
If the applicant would like to come up and add any additional information for us.
I don't think so, we're good.
Okay.
They reserve the right if there's questions.
Where's the applicant? Are they here?
We're right here.
Oh, nobody stood up, I'm sorry.
At this time, we'll open the public portion of the meeting. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak? If you'll come up and state your name and address for us, please.
My name's Carolyn Booth. I'm not here for this, but I live at 106 Orange Street and have lived at 154 South School Street, raising my children. I'm against any variances. I've dealt with them all my life, and I never have been issued a variance when I've asked for it, a foot variance or 2-foot variance. And I have irregular lots, as all irregular there can be. And I'm just not real clear why we want to, I didn't understand, was there a house there before?
There has been a house there for quite some time. Yes, ma'am.
And it's being remodeled?
There's a request for a garage.
Oh, well, you know, I can't build a garage at my 106 Orange Street because of that, so, because I don't have I'd have to ask for variances, and I don't believe in variances. I think that's the rules, and we should stick with them. That's all I have to say. If we start giving variances, we really get into trouble, and I know they give a lot of them. So
I don't think so.
I'm hoping y'all will stick with the variances. Thank you.
I will say, just to clarify, there's not too many variances given out by this board. We have few things that this board reviews for public's consideration. Those are use approvals and appeals, but variances are one of the reviews, and those are not given out freely. Absolutely. We still have the public hearing, so if you want to wait until that, is there anyone else?
Yes, is there anybody else that would state your name and address for us?
My name is Donald DeGutz. My home is 110 Blakeney Avenue, Fairhope. First of all, I fully support the applicant's request for the variances. or variance that remains. I fully support that. I think it's well presented and deserved. I do have a question for staff, though, about the 10-foot separation from accessory structures, and that this variance will reduce that significantly. What is the purpose of that? Is it aesthetics? Because there are many accessory structures that you see with that look, that appearance, and then there are garages and carports that are integral to the structure. I'm just curious then, what is the purpose of the 10-foot separation, and how to justify any variance to it?
Fire?
Yeah, well, we can, do you want to collectively get the questions and answer at the end of the public hearing, or just hit each one, Mr. Chairman?
You could answer them.
Okay. So without being here since the zoning ordinance has been in place, I can't answer with 100% surety of what the intent was. There was multiple different things happening then. They had 40-foot front setbacks. We didn't have lot coverage requirements. There wasn't drainage and, requirements, but people were building 1,100 square foot homes on a lot of the fruit and nut, in the fruit and nut especially. Fire codes are definitely one of those, and separations of those that helps ensure that those are met, and that's evolved through the years. We are looking at some changes and have proposed a few changes that will address some of these things and give a little bit more flexibility in some areas. We're also in discussions of others, but it's a little bit different in our opinion when someone has a very large lot, a lot of buildable area, and has room to move. If everything's in the buildable setbacks, that kind of has a little bit of flexibility. So we are looking at some alternate language there, but that's not approved. Part of it was just limiting the impervious surface and historically the rooftops that are coverage of the lot of hard surfaces. We've proposed a specific percentage there that can be addressed. So, but fire code, at the end of the day, from 1907, there was not a zoning ordinance, but the 2-page city code had a 40-foot setback, and buildings have to be built of brick or clay at the time. So fire has always been the #1 leading charge there.
So what was developed, or what was required back then, when there were concerns about fire versus today's materials and design and all, again, you're allowing the variance, which I fully support, but there are other cases and past history where people have requested search variances. There's one on Kiefer Avenue that is had to be adjusted, not a variance brought to you, but just curious then to how strict and why that requirement is there. And I didn't quite fully understand the explanation. One other thing, the applicant was designing and asked for in his application a 24-foot wide garage. Is that no longer available to them?
We don't give variances for building widths or things like that. This is about the setbacks, is what we have to advertise.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
what is allowed to fit within the setbacks as the board grants or does not grant will be what's allowed.
Okay, so I guess they withdrew that. So I do appreciate in the report, the staff feels the request is reasonable, and I appreciate that you've made the determination, acknowledge that. I also appreciate the statement here that there would be no impacts on adjacent property owners. That's important, and again, I'm glad to see that in the staff report. One other thing might be relevant, slightly relevant, is at one time the plans for this structure included, I think, a shower, full bathroom upstairs, like an ADU type of unit, which is not permitted in the city. But you had mentioned, Hunter, I think at a city council, planning commission, that there may be some changes that may allow ADUs in the future you might support.
No, sir, that has nothing to do with this case.
Right.
And
Okay.
there's been many public hearings about ADUs, but nothing while we're here tonight, nor involved in this
Yes,
site.
sure. All right, thank you.
Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against? All right, we'll close the public portion, and if the applicant, if you'll state your name for the record for us.
Hi, my name is Patrick Seals, 304 Liberty Street. My wife and I are the applicants. Thanks for consideration of this variance. We moved here from Texas 3 or 4 years ago, and we're lucky to find this little house, we're just trying to add on to it. We've done a lot of work to try to mirror what we're doing with this carport to match the house, including the roof, so the aesthetics look good. And we've done a lot of work cleaning up, because when we first bought it, you couldn't even see the house because it was so overgrown. So I appreciate your consideration, Hunter, and the whole committees in trying to get us this variance. It'll come in really handy and help us live there a little bit better, but we appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Board members, do we have any additional discussion or questions?
Make a motion to approve the 5'11" structural separation variance, and deny the 1'11" side yard setback variance.
I second.
Excuse me, before you
Yeah.
vote, would that approval be with the staff condition? There is one
Oh,
recommendation.
yes, with the staff conditions. I'm sorry, did not.
Okay, we will take a roll call vote. Ryan?
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay, our third order of business is BOA 25.14. It is a special exception for the owner, Chris Pixley, to operate a med spa on the property zone B2, and it's located at 19682 Greeno Road.
Good evening, Mike Jeffries with the City of Fairhope. So as you said, this is for You Again Medical. It is a clinic by definition, and our zoning ordinance therefore requires the approval of the Board of Adjustments. You'll see on the screen it's located on Greeno Road in the newly built Polo Crossing 5-unit complex there on the east side of Greeno, just north of Windsor Drive. On the left is a zoning map. Property is zone B2. On the right is the outdated aerial. The 5-unit multiple occupancy project was approved in 2023 at the November Planning Commission meeting. On the screen is a copy of that site plan with the existing conditions. The entire is built out. This tenant space is number 2 for where the proposed unit would go. This will fill the last vacant space that is inside of the complex here. Again, just a view from the front would be the left side there of the building. In general, the proposed use, like I said, will fill the last vacant spot. The parking is compliant with the current uses, the 2 restaurants, 2 retail uses, and the proposed med spa. The parking was reviewed during the MOP process and has a maximum number of parking allowed there. So anytime a unit is swapped out, we had a proposed what was going to go there for that unit count. This does not exceed what that parking number is. Actually meets it right at what needs to be there. So staff recommendation is for approval of BOA 2514, You Again Medical, to allow a clinic in B2 General Business District. Happy to answer any questions on behalf of staff, and I believe we have the applicant is with us here tonight as well. We can answer questions on there if they have anything.
All right. Applicant, if you'd like to come up and state your name for our record, please.
My name is Chris Pixley, and I'm actually from Louisiana, and I did a similar business to this, pretty big. And my wife and I were excited to move out here with our family to Fairhope and try to do this all over again and have some fun with it. Any questions about what we do or any of that?
Is there a physician on staff or nurses or what?
So you always have to have a collaborative physician, yes, ma'am. And so we have a physician, we have an MD, Jeff Donahue. He's got licenses all over. We've got nurse practitioners who practice in the clinics as well. They do the prescribing under Dr. Donahue's guidance. And then we have nurses as well that help.
So is the physician on call, or he's not there, or he or she there?
Doesn't have to be based on the state law, because all we're essentially doing is consulting with different patients. It's hormone replacement therapy and weight management. So we're consulting with different patients on trying to optimize their energy levels, production levels, hormone levels, right? And so as long as we have a physician on staff, a medical director, as we would call it,
So
then we're
you
okay.
work closely with OBGYNs, or is this your own?
So what we would do is we would refer out to OBGYNs. We don't ever claim to be anything other than what we are. I opened 14 locations in Louisiana, built a very sizable business called Rejuvenate Medical. I was the CEO for 8 years, built it from the ground up. Life had a funny way of pushing us here faster even than we thought. My wife and I lost our 19-year-old son 2.5 months ago. In addition to that, we've got incredible family here, and we've still got a 22-year-old son and a 17-year-old daughter. And we always felt like this place was home. Mostly, I keep pointing back there because my brother-in-law with the glasses on top of his head and my sister have lived here for years, and they do the Serve Pros. And we come here every year for Thanksgiving, and we just look forward to it. And so when I resigned from Rejuvenate, between Jody and another individual is a pretty high net worth guy, they both said, hey, don't wait for your buyout. Let's go do this. Let's go do this right now. And then the rest was history.
Good.
So we're looking forward to it. We really, really, I'm telling you, we love the place.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Good?
All right. This time we'll open the public portion. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on behalf? We'll close the public portion. Board members, do we have a discussion?
Looking for a motion?
Yes.
I recommend or move that we approve BOA 2514, and it looks like there are no conditions.
I'll second.
All in favor? We'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 Motion carries unanimously. Okay, our last order of business is BOA 2512, and we have Brian needs to excuse himself, and Brian will come up and be the alternate.
Hello.
And just for the public's sake, the Board of Adjustment has 5 voting members
Yeah.
and 2 supernumerary positions just for this occasion. So Brian is currently our supernumerary, is filling in this case while Ryan
Brian, will you
recuses himself.
introduce yourself to the public, please?
Yes, is this on?
All right, so our last order of business, BOA 2512, is for Trinity Presbyterian Church.
All right, good evening. Case BOA 2512 Trinity Presbyterian Church. This is a special exception approval to allow construction of a new chapel on property zoned R2, medium-density, single-family residential. The subject site is located off of Fig Avenue between Satsuma Street and Bay Breeze Lane. The applicant is Walcott Adams Vernell Architects, and the property owner is Trinity Presbyterian Church. On your screens, we've got our usual zoning map on the left showing you all the surrounding zoning, and our aerial map on the right, which we will dive into a bit closer in a moment. Bit of history on the site. The Board of Adjustment approved the initial special exception for Trinity Presbyterian Church in 1968. Most recently, in 2014, the board approved another special exception for Trinity Church to allow a columbarium to be constructed on the main church property. There have been no other Planning Commission or Board of Adjustment applications for the site. On your screen is an enlargement of the aerial imagery, and one item I do want to point out or call to your attention is that the subject site, being a part of the larger Trinity Church, is comprised of multiple parcels as well as some historical lot lines, which you can see these dashed green lines on very vaguely showing all of those historical lots throughout the entire complex. Some of these lot lines are going to have to be done away with and combined, if approved, should everything go through. But ultimately, the subject site is undeveloped. It's highlighted here in yellow on your screen. And it is neighbored by an existing fellowship hall to the west, and then the church proper next to it as well. I've included the proposed site plan here next to the aerial imagery to kind of give you a good vantage point of what's being proposed. The site plan shows you the 700 square foot memory chapel. Couple items that staff would like to note is that as you're well aware, a place of worship or a church is not included in the City of Fairhope's use table. It is neither allowed by right nor on appeal, subject to special conditions. Therefore, it's being presented to you tonight as a use not provided for. As far as the site's proposal, the main kind of concern staff had was with parking. They're not proposing any on-site parking for the lot that the memory chapel is going to be on. That's because the applicant intends to utilize the existing parking in front of the fellowship hall. This off-site parking would need to be addressed by just an administrative replat combining those two properties. So you would have the fellowship hall and the memory chapel on a single lot. Assuming that's acceptable, if approved, staff would just ask that a condition of that approval be requiring a parking layout plan to be provided showing a compliant number of parking spaces for both structures and all uses on that newly created lot. And then, as I mentioned, administrative replat would also be needed to combine those properties. While not required, the applicant may wish to consider combining other parcels in the complex. There's a number of lots that the church owns in this block that are all zoned similarly R2. Can kind of create some issues down the road with properties zoned R2, adjacent to properties zoned R2 being utilized for commercial uses, and how required buffers are implemented. Just typically creates some confusion if they have an applicant, saw fit to combine those properties into one. It could draw a hard kind of boundary between their properties and the neighboring residentially utilized properties across the street. During the public comment period, staff did receive some comments from a number of citizens. Their primary concern was potential for an increase in traffic to the site caused by the expansion of the church's facilities. Those full comments, of course, were included in your agenda packets. Ultimately, staff does recommend approval of BOA 2512 Trinity Presbyterian Church to allow the construction of the new chapel with those two conditions I mentioned earlier. Number one would be provision of a parking layout plan to staff showing compliant number of parking for both the fellowship hall and the memory chapel prior to any issuance of a building permits for the chapel. Condition number two would just be completion of an administrative replat to combine those lots, again, prior to issuance of any development permits. I believe Walcott Adams Vernell has a representative here on behalf of the owner, and then, of course, staff is available should you have any questions.
The parking plan that you're going to require, is that going to take into account all the structures on the site? You mentioned, it says in here, memory chapel and fellowship hall.
The only structures that we could require it to take into account were those structures on the newly created lot, which would be the fellowship hall and the memory chapel. Because the proposal wouldn't affect any sort of change on the church's property, can't necessarily lump that in with that requirement unless for some reason the applicant wanted to include that property. So as it stands, we would just require that they address parking for the existing structures and the existing fellowship hall and the proposed memory chapel.
Is there how do you know if there's adequate parking on the site for all the structures that are there?
So right now, and just candidly, there's a lot of empty property here. So
But it's not all
parking and
developed.
grass, and you can see that in around some of the other churches on kind of that overflow. But we would look at, I believe it's either the greater of the two between square feet of assembly space or number of seats. So we'll have to see which one is greater with the math, if that's the way it goes. Have to actually go check seats and square footage of the assembly space. It doesn't count things like restrooms and classrooms. It's the assembly space for the church. in the zoning ordinance.
What is a memory chapel?
That would probably be a question better posed to the
okay.
applicant.
The applicant.
If you don't have anything else for staff, you
That's
can
it for the staff.
bring the
right?
applicant up here, and
Yeah.
I'm sure they'd be happy to discuss it with you.
Okay. If you'll state your name for our record, please.
Good evening. My name is Melissa Nolte, and I'm with Walcott Adams Vernell. So I guess I could start with the memory chapel question. We're actually referring to it as a meditation chapel. It's about 700 square feet, and this started, we have a church member here whose mother or grandmother, I believe, grandmother, was a founding member of this church when it was a pavilion on the bluff way back in the day. So in memory of his grandmother, he has wanted to do something on the property for the church and for her. Believe there's also been some trying times in his own family, and he was looking for a space that would be open to the neighborhood or open to someone to come into, sit down, and really just have a quiet place. This chapel seats right around 16 folks. It's not big. It is literally a place for you to come in, sit down, say a prayer, just have some quiet time. So this is in memory of his grandmother. It is intended for a broader audience than just the church use. If the neighborhood wanted to walk in, I believe the church would probably only keep that open during the day, but that is the intent for it.
So are the doors unlocked all the time? Or,
I believe, and Reverend Matt could address better, but I believe the intent would definitely be during the day when the church is there. They would not leave it unlocked at night, of course, just
so on Sundays or what?
Sundays, and you're there Monday through Saturday most of the time. During daylight hours is their intent. So while they're there all the time, there's administration staff and all there, so they would be Monday through Sunday, daylight hours.
So 700 square feet, so that's kind of small, so
It
it's
is
just
small.
kind of like,
It's small,
how many people? Like
16.
16 people?
And that's on chairs. So, I mean, it's smaller than a lot of garages.
When do you foresee it being used?
During the daytime, during the day. If, I was trying to think of a similar one. There's a similar chapel at, I believe it's Christ the King in Daphne, but it would be during daylight hours. It's when the larger main sanctuary is closed up. If you wanted to come in and just, like I said, sit, have a quiet moment, pray, you would have that opportunity there.
So why is there a concern for incremental traffic if it's going to be open just during the day?
To be honest, we don't feel like there will be a traffic issue
Okay.
with it, no more than would normally be associated with a church on a Sunday. Again, it's really small. The intent is for it to be a walk-up type of project. That's one reason we don't do any on-site parking. We went ahead and ran a couple parking calculations based on the staff report that we got a copy of, just to see where we were at. And this is based on the square footage, so with the fellowship hall and the chapel, even if we count the classrooms upstairs, which I know you said we didn't need to, but if we count the classrooms upstairs, both of those together require 34 spaces, and there's currently 47 paved spaces there. So most of the time, 6 days a week, that fellowship hall, there's no one there. There's maybe 3 or 4 cars in the lot just for the administration and staff. We don't see this chapel adding a lot of traffic or cars to the site. So,
If it's open to the public, how will you let the public know that this is available?
so I think that would be part of the church's branding and mission. They're doing this with some of their other projects that they've got. Bay Treat is one of theirs. They have a lot of outreach missions. So I believe some of that would be signage, letting folks know what the hours are. And then I know the church has already hosted one neighborhood meeting just to be a good neighbor and let folks know that it's available to them.
All right, is there anybody else that would like to speak on behalf of the project? If you'll come up to the microphone, Lee.
Lee Vernell with Walcott Owens Vernell Architects, and I'm working with Melissa on the project and our client in the church, Pastor Matt, who's with us too. He might want to say a few words. Those are some good questions, Kathy. The concept of this chapel was to not necessarily be a large chapel for weddings and things like that. This was meant to be a meditative, prayerful space. If you've ever set foot in Christ the King Chapel at 9 o'clock on a weekday morning, there'll be 3 or 4 people sitting in there meditating. If you've gone to the Jesuit Chapel at Spring Hill College, same thing. The intent here was to have a space where someone who might not feel comfortable being inside a large church or narthex could have a prayerful, meditative space to perhaps they're going through a difficult time. This came from a very heartfelt intent by the donor that is doing this in memory of their grandmother, who was a founding member. So all along, we've fought size. Should we make it 8 feet bigger, 12 feet bigger? What if they want to have a wedding there? It is against what the intent was of the memorial, as well as and the church is very receptive to this concept, and it's a very low impact structure. And as Melissa said, the parking requirements on site now exceed what technically, as I understand it, are required. The footprint of this building, if you even took into a lane, would not take up 6 parking spaces if we were somehow placing it in, if we were taking away parking spaces. This is a picnic area. If you've ridden by there are benches there. It's in the clearing. There'll be no impact on trees. Taking trees down, we're not in tree canopies that are going to be detrimentally affected. So I think site-wise it's a good location. And for me personally, who is not a member of this church, and I walk a lot in the neighborhood, I can't imagine a nicer space if I just want to go in and reflect for a moment or sit down. I mean, I really think it's a wonderful purpose, and I could see myself going in. And much like Christ the King and Daphne, they have a monitoring system where the church office has a camera, and the church intends on doing the same thing, where the administrative office always has eyes on both the inside and the outside of the chapel, except, of course, the restroom area, which is there. So it'll be well monitored. Not to say it may not be open on certain evenings, but I doubt it, just for monitoring purposes. But if you don't mind, I'd like Pastor Matt to say maybe just a few words, because they have informed the neighborhood, and he can speak a little to that. I was not at that meeting.
Lee, one more question. What are the dimensions of this building?
It's surprisingly small. Melissa, help me, is it 16 or 19 feet wide? Pardon me.
What is it?
Yeah, so she is 24 feet total with the bumps.
24 feet total length, and 7 feet of that is the little entry vestibule and storage room for HVAC, and then a little ADA compliant restroom. So, and then width?
That was the width, so it's 18, it's 24 overall with the bumps on the side, and then the total width, the length is 33 feet.
Yeah. So 33 feet front to back, and counting that 7 foot. So really, if you put chapel chairs in there, it would probably comfortably seat 16. We didn't want it to be such a space that you didn't feel intimate in there, nor did the donor. So I hope I've explained it well enough.
Yeah, my concern was the property is quite vulnerable to Scenic 98, and I know the safety, and at our church, I know we get people off of Interstate 10 all the time dropping in and wanting handouts or whatever, and you would have to monitor
Absolutely.
that area.
Absolutely, and that'll be done with a camera system to the office, which is just steps away. The office
Right.
is actually the church office is in the rear of the church near the fellowship hall. So
Right.
I'm pretty confident it'll be well maintained for everybody's interest, well monitored for everybody's interest. But I'll let Pastor Matt speak just briefly.
Matt McCollum, 9469 Zelda Street. It's dangerous to give the preacher a microphone, but I do appreciate you considering this. I don't know if I would add anything to what's already been said, but I think it'll be a great blessing to our church and our community. It'll be a beautiful building that will beautify our neighbors as well. We always try to be good neighbors to the folks who live around us, and we have met with them and explained the project to them as well. And like I said, it's too small really to be used for much other than just a chance, hopefully, to have an encounter with God. And that's our hope, that there'll be just a place set apart, a sacred space for folks. So, thank you.
I have a question. I've got a question. When you had your neighborhood meeting, what was the, I mean, were they happy or?
Yeah, I think some of our neighbors are here. The way I would describe it, I think they really like the project. I think the concern is if the variances or special exemption is given to us, does that give us permission to build a bowling alley or a movie theater or something like that down the road? So I think that was my sense, that they liked this particular project. This didn't understand if this was to go through, what that would mean for the future. Just to be clear, we are not building a bowling alley or a movie theater. So.
And just to clarify that, because I was going to mention this anyway, because I think, Kathy, you had some good questions, but just so everyone is aware, this approval is just for what they're proposing. If there was any additions, extra buildings, anything else, there would be another review such as this, assuming our regulations stay the same. As you saw, the first one was approved in 1968, came to this board again 15 years ago. 2014 came to this board. So there was for the columbarium, if there was any other buildings, it would be a public hearing under our current regulations that would come before you as well, and all neighbors would get a chance to review that.
All right, thank you. This time I'll open the public portion. Is there anybody from the public? If you'll come up and state your name again for us.
Gonna get to know me, aren't
Yeah.
you? Carolyn Booth, I'm at 106 Orange. I back up to this property pretty much, other than down the alley and around the corner. But there's a problem that churches have in Fairhope of backing onto residential buildings. And I want y'all to understand, I grew up with my School Street house being butt back ends to the Methodist church. And now I sit with I call it my Berlin Wall around my backyard, because the building that the Methodist church built years ago, I have to tell them, don't let those people spend the night out there. This year they had mattresses they put on the ground out there. So that you face some things of when you have a fellowship hall or a chapel, that it's going to be a constant something you're always fighting against, people coming in that don't need to be there. And if you have a restroom open for them, they're going to like it even more. And I have a grandmother up in heaven too, but she would like to see this thing that they're building be built down on their new piece of property down on the bay. I would think that would be the ultimate place for people to have to come, and not in a neighborhood. And you've got air conditioner units out back, and they're running 24/7, believe me. And that's what I've had to fuss about. I go to the people and I talk to them, but once the church builds something, they won't turn their head and say, yes, we'll deal with that right away. When it's an issue, here we have a home there, and they're not there 24/7 in that building. So I just think too much built on a piece of property is going to ruin it. And what's wrong with God's outdoors in the beautiful bay they sit on? Nothing to me. I'm a Jane Goodall when it comes to that. And I'm hoping that y'all will not just think this is just anything goes on. And parking is a problem. It is a problem. They have funerals constantly, and they're overrun. They even take up the little area where the pier is on Orange Street. People don't like to walk very far to get into their church, I'll tell you. So they want to be close by when they park. And that's alongside the road and whatever. I don't know what we're going to become. I'm a Christian, and I go to the Fairhope Christian Church, but I don't believe that we should just be filling up property with church buildings. They ought to go out and get a big piece of property where they can have a campus, if that's what they're after. And this is not a campus deal, but eventually it's going to lead to it. You watch. I don't know whether I'll be here then, but I'm working at it. So, you and I both. We're about the same age. Okay.
Fat chance.
I just hope they look at it a little closer before they put a bunch of money into something that it doesn't do anything for them. And it's a great idea, and what Christ the King did, but you're talking about the Christ the King, and you're not talking about being on the bay like we are. So, that's it. I said my piece, and it's probably not worth 2 cents, but, and I would like to introduce all of Orange Street. This is Orange Street, Big Street, Satsuma Street, and we don't want to see this become a disaster.
Really?
Anybody else from the, if you'll come up and state your name and address for us?
Judy Oxford. I live on 105 Fig Avenue. And we had the meeting the other night. We saw an actual map. And I think my concern was the rezoning of the property in order for this chapel to be built. Well, it's a pretty big piece of property that the chapel sits on. And my fear is to rezone that whole piece of property later on down the road, might need a new educational building or whatever, and they use every bit of that property back there for parking on Sunday and park on Fig Street. They park everywhere. But another building there displaces and makes even more parking on the street. So that's my concern. I think the chapel is lovely. I have no objection to the chapel being there. My concern is that whole piece of property that would be rezoned, because the property that the chapel would sit on, according to the map that I saw the other night, that whole plat there would be rezoned. And I would think that that would kind of open up the gates for later development. And there's just not the parking for it. That is my concern, because I really don't want parking all in front of my house on every Sunday. And that's what I'm concerned about, future parking. That's my issue with it. I think the chapel is lovely. I would love to have it there. I would use it. But I'm worried about the rest of the property and the zoning concern. That is my concern for the future.
Mayor, I've got a question. We're not rezoning the property. Is that correct?
Well, I
We're
thought
just,
according to the letter that they sent out for us that it had,
This is a use, it does not, sorry. It is not a rezoning case. The Planning Commission, City Council would be deciding those if it was a rezoning case. This is the use, any church, anytime a church expands, they have to come to the Board of Adjustment for that specific use. So as we kind of said earlier, this is for a 700 square foot chapel. If there's ever any future, I can't say they won't propose something in the future,
Yeah.
but it would come back to
Okay.
this board with another public hearing with plans for exactly what they're proposing to make sure they're meeting all requirements, whether that's parking, drainage, anything that may be required.
well, that, in the letter that we received from the city, there was very little information there, no map or no anything. And it was not till we had the meeting and we saw the actual map there, but nobody could answer that question about, did it affect the whole property there that the actual chapel would sit on, that plot of property? That's what nobody could answer that question for us. So that was a big concern for us, what would happen there. So, okay, well, good, you answered that question then. Thank you.
Thank you. You're welcome.
anybody else from the public?
Good evening, everybody. I'm Emily Bartola Johnson. I share the block with the Presbyterian Church. I'm on the north end, they're on the south end, facing the bay. Over the years, my property has been in my family since 1936. I presently live there and have been there almost 30 years after inheriting the property after my family died. Over the years, property has been rezoned. I had a house next to me on 2 lots. It was rezoned back in the 60s, and the first chapel was built. Originally, on that piece of property, south of me going down to Fig, there was a home on 2 lots. It belonged to some people from Mobile. They were elderly. They wanted to sell it because they weren't using it enough. Then there was an old building that they used in the summer for some house parties, retreats, whatever. And then the original church was only a church, was a pavilion. It had a stage and it had a storage building at each end with a piano on one end and folding chairs on the other. And it was just concrete and open air, and they used it only in the summer, and we used it actually as a skating rink. So then over the years, the other property that they have acquired behind them, where they have their I guess you'd call it reception building, whatever, family life, there was a little home back there too. And on the other property that they own that's behind me, behind Bay Breeze and going back to Satsuma and Long Fig, there were homes which have been torn down over the years. There were, I think it's 2 homes on Fig, and there were 2 more homes on Orange Street, and then they do own the little house that's on the corner of Orange and Satsuma. There's an empty lot that's just been sold where there was a home on Orange, and then the next house that's right behind me on the alley belongs to George Fuller that he's redone. And then my house, like I said, is on the corner. I think the chapel itself is lovely. I've seen saw the renderings. I think it's a lovely structure. My main concern, and like we said with this, what I understand, we thought it would be rezoning from residential. I understand it's their property, so it's use of the property, so it's a little bit confusing. But these other properties that are within this large parcel have always been residential. And what we don't want is to become, later on, this to be a sea of parking lots and if they need another big building to put up there. In other words, for me to be, from being homes on these properties to go to all parking lot and maybe buildings. Right now, there's not anything left but 2 homes. So there are possibilities for that, and they do not have adequate parking for their Sunday services or funerals. So right now it's grassy, where they bought these torn down other houses and buildings, and it's grassy, so it's nice. And like I said, I have no objection to the chapel, but I am very concerned about the future, that there would be other structures built there. I don't know what they do for parking, but unless they tried to acquire some other property around there. But anyway, that's my main concern, that it would get paved or be a lot of extra buildings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else that would like to come up?
My name is Teresa Adcock. I live at 17 Pecan Avenue. I was also at that meeting the other night where the minister discussed the building and the usage, and we pretty much all agree that we like the building. I'll reiterate that parking is a problem with this church. Even though it's a grassy area, they use it as a parking lot. They don't pave it, but and it is completely full. The streets are full. The parking lot on Orange where the pier is full. They also use the Gambino parking lot and have people come back and forth. So parking is a huge issue. I don't know that this building, it's not big, but when you take this little building and they are constantly buying property and tearing the houses down to use as parking lots, as we've heard from the last neighbor, over the years you see they keep adding and adding and adding. And that's what I think the neighbors are concerned about, including myself, is that the property is just going to keep getting bought. Houses are going to keep getting torn down, and maybe this generation is only going to build this memory chapel, but the next generation is going to build something bigger, and the next generation is going to do, and eventually you're just going to overtake that whole area down there. I've seen it also with Fairhope Baptist Church. They have bought some property around them, knocked the houses down, turned them into parking lots. I just recently bought one of the houses across the street, and I'm renovating it and trying to sell it so that it doesn't get torn down. So I don't want in the future there be a precedent that you can take an R2 lot and a church and just keep expanding in this area. They did buy a nice piece of property on the bay, and I think that would be a wonderful place to put this chapel. But just not in our residential area, so.
Is there anybody else from the public that would like to speak? All right, we'll close the public portion. And board members, do we have any discussion?
Question. Right now, does the present property of the church end on the east side at Satsuma?
So you can, Peyton, is there one that shows? Yeah, there you go. There are many properties, and even the tax viewer, what you see online, the parcel viewer, is not an accurate description on where the actual lots are. Those go back to, I believe, the original plat, 1923. So they own many pieces of property, and what you can do on each one of those is something different. We're only looking at one piece of what they own. But as Peyton mentioned, there is a requirement to replat some of those, and that would offer some protections. So I can't tell you exactly which properties they own just based on this map. We can
Okay,
pull that up.
does the church own any property east of Satsuma?
Uh,
I can show where the.
No, Teresa's saying no, they don't own any east of Satsuma. They do own this corner parcel, this parcel right here, the subject site, the Fellowship Hall, Trinity Church.
Yeah, but,
And then these two parcels up here.
okay, so the answer is no?
Correct. The answer is no, not that I'm aware of.
So yeah, I just want to add, so all the, I don't know how to do the pointer, but all these pieces of property adjacent to the yellow highlighted, they own.
Right.
And they've torn down houses over the years. And you can see how it just keeps expanding. Yes, they haven't put a building on it, but all this is parking lot. There's even one property right here that you can't really tell, there's a playground on it that they built that backs up to a lot of, to two houses. It's pretty noisy. I mean, it's pretty noisy. It's nice to hear the children play, but sometimes when they have functions there and it's a lot of children, it can get pretty loud. And I think the neighbors are pretty tolerant with it because it is a church and they are children. But again, is there going to be a school next? Is there going to be, it just keeps going and going. And that's part of the concern for the neighborhood.
More air conditioners to listen to.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
can I speak?
Yeah.
Respond to Ms. Slagel's comments?
The public hearing has been closed.
Yes, understood, but Kathy, Ms. Slagle did raise another issue that might be.
That did not open the public hearing.
Yeah, it's past the time, Don.
Thank you,
Okay, you're right.
Mike. You're up to the chairman.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve BOA 2512 with the two conditions on our sheets for parking lot layout plan and the replat.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, we'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
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 The motion carries unanimously. All right, do we have any new businesses for next month? Okay,
We
so
do.
no- we will have a meeting for next month,
At
okay?
this time, we do. If everything progresses,
Okay,
have a meeting.
all right. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right. Thank y'all.